Hi, I'm Rodrigo from Frame Freak Studio, and this is the Creative Housework Show. Today, my guest here is Scott WISER. He is the creator of an animation called Layers that is incredibly beautiful, and he's just about to launch it. So, welcome, Scott.
Thank you. Great to be here with you.
Awesome. So, first of all, can you tell us a little bit about your history? Pretty much, how did you decide to start in art, get to this point, and also the history of the creation of layers?
Okay. A bit about my history. I created my own degree to be an animation degree in the bachelor's that I received. And I made a short film way back then, too. And I sent it to a former Disney artist, and he told me that I'd do amazing things one day. But he also recommended I do Animation Mentor, which is what I ended up doing, was their whole animation training program. And then right after that, I got an animation job on Alvin and the Chipmunks 3 at Rhythm and Hughes. And then since then, I worked on film, games, TV, and commercials. So I've been a character animator for many different companies, and some of the things I've actually directed, mainly the commercials and obviously my newest short film. And I just love animation. I've done it for several years, and it was kind of I was kind of on, there were two tracks that I could possibly take at the last animation studio I was at. I could either leave and do my own thing and try to develop feature film ideas and short film ideas and try to get something of my own going, or I could continue on to companies like Sony and Disney and Pixar and that sort of thing. Those are kind of the two tracks that I was looking at. It is progressing in my career, and so I actually chose the personal project route, which was really risky, but so far it's paying off, and hopefully it keeps paying off.
Nice. I truly give you props for that, because I've seen a lot of, internationally speaking, I've seen a lot of amazing artists. And for example, there is this school of animation in France called Gobelins, and every time they launch the animations made by students, like, these are an amazing stories and amazing animations, and then it's like, well, what happens with these guys? And it's like, oh no, they are all going to Disney and Pixar and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So they are just creating this in a certain way, in a generic stuff, because pretty much all the characters from Disney look the same. Not saying that it's wrong, but at the same time, it's kind of, it pains me to see amazing artists who just go there and stop doing art of themselves, and which I think that is amazing. And so I think that the world needs a little bit more people like you. So I give you props for that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and it's not easy. It's actually been very, very difficult, but there's so many rewards along the way. And one of those was, and it's along the lines of the same thing you were just saying. I presented this at CTNX, the Animation Expo in the industry. I presented Layers, and somebody came up to me at the end, and they gave me a really great compliment, I felt. They said, "Thank you so much for not making a short film that was Pixar bait." He said, "Not that that's bad. Pixar films are wonderful, and the short films are wonderful, and the Disney films, they're wonderful." But he said that a lot of the short films he sees, they tend to look like they're trying to be Disney or Pixar. And when I make stuff, I just try to tell a great story, and I try to do something that is different.
Yeah, actually, I was in CTN a couple of months ago, and unluckily, that was my first time as an exhibitor, and it was way more crazy than I anticipated, so I wasn't able to go.
You were even an exhibitor, huh?
Yeah, but
wow.
But yeah, that was the first time, and it was crazy. But I wanted to see like all the films, and I couldn't do it. So that was one of the things that ended up like, I wanted to do this and I couldn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw your film now that you mentioned it. Like, because to this other guy, Carlos Baena, he had another film called Anoria. But yeah, I really loved your film, by the way.
Thank you.
So, in this path that you have chosen, what was something that you didn't expect at all that become really important in you finishing this animation or in your career. Because I think these are the trickiest part of choosing a path in art. It's not the things that we fear most of the time, but the things that we don't even know they are there. And then they come up and it's like, oh, I never thought about it. So what was something that you didn't expect at all that became really important in what you did?
So the thing that I didn't expect is that I would be animating the whole short film by myself. I was developing this with former heads of animation from Dreamwork. They started a company called Nimble Collective. And they helped me develop the story and stuff. So they were constantly giving me feedback. And they kept saying, we're hoping we can get you a budget. We have all these investors that we're showing the project to. We're hoping they'll just invest a little bit in your project and make it happen. And it was just, they had a lot of people they were doing that with. And so it was just very difficult for that to happen for me because my project was longer and more elaborate than some of the others. And when it came down to it, I actually had to do a Kickstarter. And the Kickstarter failed. So because I raised $15,000, but the goal was 40. And so because you don't hit your goal, I failed. So I ended up getting a grant for about $15,000. And I was hoping for, again, $50,000 so that I could have other artists working with me, at least another animator and a background artist or something like that. And in the end, it just had to be just me because I only had $15,000. I had been working for another company that I helped to build their creative team. So luckily, I had some money from that also because the short cost my business $25,000 when I had gotten 15. So, but it's done. And it's getting really good feedback. I sent it to a lot of private industry contacts and the feedback is really glowing so far. So that's really good. Even talks about potentially building something bigger out of the property. So, but don't want to talk about anything too soon because you never know.
Yeah, definitely. I hope that it goes well. And like it is amazing. How did you get the emotional and mental strength to go into doing this on your own? Because I think most people, pretty much they don't. I don't see too many people who say like, okay, this project went bad. Let's do this all by myself. That doesn't happen very often. So
Yeah.
where did that strength came from to do this and pretty much hold this project on your own and put it in your backend and push forward?
Yeah, the strength I would say has come from a lot of failures throughout my life. That's really the truth. So I was in musical theater a lot as a kid, and when I was first in doing theater and stage plays and stuff, I was given all these really big parts because they thought, oh, this kid is really talented, and size didn't matter as much back then. But I'm a pretty short guy. My voice was kind of higher, and so I was kind of given these bit roles once it got into high school, and that was really hard for me to be somebody who they said, well, you have so much talent, but your look doesn't fit, your height doesn't fit, and that's kind of how my animation career has gone as well. After that first job at Rhythm and Hughes, I was unemployed for 18 months, and to get through that was very difficult, but because I was so determined to feed my family and to get back into animation and to, get my career back, I would wake up every day and I would treat it like a day job. And I worked full time at making new animated tests and applying for jobs and networking with people. And so having gone through that, at the time it seemed like one of the worst times of my life, but now it's like, wow, that was one of the best times of my life because it really it made me into something that, that can actually do a short film by themselves and can actually continue to churn out work even when there's nobody around to encourage. So, yeah. Except I say there's nobody around to encourage me. That's not true. My wife is really good at encouraging me, and there are other people that I kind of grab along the way to kind of say, hey, look what I'm doing. You want to get excited about it? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So, but yeah, more often now, they do get excited what I'm working on.
Nice.
And that comes with time. Like when you're first starting out, you're going to be showing to people. Maybe your mom's excited about it, but you know, you might show it to the internet community, and they kind of pass it by or something like that. But that doesn't mean that you don't have potential to be talented. It means that, you know, you just have to put in the time, and later on down the road, people will be talking about your work and giving you reactions that you want.
I've been very interested lately in like hardship for people, because I've been able to see like some cases where pretty much they have everything and they don't do anything, and then I see people like you, and I have met a lot of people like that who is like everything is against them, and still they push through and manage to do what they want to do. And most of the time what comes is that, oh yeah, like they had the strength to go through this because they went through something so much worse in the past.
Yeah.
And that has happened to me as well. Like in the business, we had moments that were really hard, and yeah, it's like everybody, hey, how do you not give up? And it's like, this is nothing.
Yeah.
I felt much worse doing something else in that period of time, and because of that, I was like, when I face problems now with the business, like, no, like this is nothing compared to that. So I think that matters.
Well, and that kept coming to my mind as I was working on the short film. I told you that I had helped another company build their creative team, and that company was very difficult for me in particular, just because it was so outside what I'm used to and what I'm comfortable doing, and it was really a rough time for me. And when I left and started my own animation freelance in my own little studio, anytime anything got rough, I would say, well, at least I'm not there, you know, at least I'm not in that situation. And there are people who like working at that company, so it's not that, you know, it's my particular experience, but yeah, most of the companies I have enjoyed working for, so I've been very fortunate in that, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And something that I want to ask you, especially when you pretty much have to do this type of labors that are really hard, when you feel overwhelmed and unfocused, do you have a method that you use to come back to your center and push through?
Yeah, I go for a walk. This is always helpful. I mean, you could call it prayer, you could call it meditation, you could call it many things, but I always go through a process of prayer myself. And again, if it's meditation for you, that's what you can do. You know, I don't want to push religion or anything like that on anybody, but that's been very, very helpful for me. A very powerful source of strength. So
nice.
And sometimes I even will do a creative project that's like kind of brainless or something that's really easy, you know, just to get a win. Like at one studio, I had this little book of faces, and I was trying to learn to draw the face. And so while I was waiting for my animation to play blast, I would just pull it, you know, open it to a page and do a quick sketch. And the goal was like, don't take a long time on the sketch. This is a quick sketch. And I always felt like creatively boosted by that. Or, you know, if you like to play an instrument, or if you like to sing or something like that, it's good to maybe go find a place where nobody can hear you, or maybe if you like people hearing you, go ahead and get an audience and sing for them or whatever. Play your instrument. If you like to sketch, whatever you like to do, just do something that you can succeed at easily. Rubik's Cubes too, those are good. Like, it was really hard for me to learn the Rubik's Cube because I had to teach my son. He came in and he's like, I don't know how to do this. It took me like 3 hours to learn this Rubik's Cube. But now it's like, it's relaxing because I can do it really fast now. So yeah, there are several people. And I know that Hayao Miyazaki, I remember seeing on a documentary on him, that when he got stuck on a problem with a story or something like that, he had this little ball on the end of a string that he would like toss it up with this and like make it land on the peg. I don't know what those are called. I know they were popular with the kids like a couple years ago, but he would do that, and once he made it, the ball land on the peg, then he knew that he could continue on with his animation.
Yeah, I saw that as well. Uh, if you were to meet a young, driven student who is about to enter, let's call it the real world, what advice would you give that person, and what advice should they ignore?
That's a good question. And it's kind of tough because it's easy for me to say, okay, they're going to need to be patient. They're going to need to be hungry. They're going to need to continue to work and refine their skills, depending on what level they're at. So I guess that really is the best advice, but it's hard to do when you're in this situation, right? It's hard, like you get out of school and you're like, okay, I need to be patient, but I also have to pay the rent. I also have to buy food. I also have to do all this other stuff. How am I going to make this all work? And that can be very tricky. And something that I have done that was really helpful for me is, I really wanted to finish my bachelor's and get right into the animation studios. And I wasn't at the level I needed to be. So I found the job that I could get, the most creative job that I could land, and that could pay a good amount of money. And then I did that while I continued on the side to push my animation skills. And so to make an animation or a creative career work, you just kind of have to, sometimes you are very fortunate. You land right in the studios and there's kind of a pathway set before you. But if you're like me, you have to kind of have a side hustle, is kind of what you say. So you have a day job, but you set aside maybe 2 hours in the morning from 5 to 7, where you continue to push your skills and to work on things. Is that good advice?
Yes, I think it is.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, I think that something that makes me sad is that people could have side hustles, and I'm not saying that everybody, because I know that some jobs are really, really hard and leave you exhausted or don't give you much time. But I think that, especially now, since we have the internet, we have Kickstarter, Indiegogo, all these tools, I think it is important that people, especially if you have a job that you don't like, that you should have something next to you that you really, really love. Because if not, it's going to be a really hard experience, I think, to be constantly doing something you don't like it without having anything else to move forward, especially in this era where your side hustle can easily turn out to be a second income, or even the income that replaces your primary job. And I have a lot of friends like that. So
yeah, and that's what I'm still working on. So hopefully that works.
yeah, definitely. Also, in the last 5 years, has there been like a mindset, a belief, or something that has improved your life, professionally speaking, or as an artist, or in general?
Yeah, there is one. There's a book called Choosing Clarity. And I'm trying to think, 5 years. Okay, 5 years, yeah. There's a book called, because there's stuff that happened before then that has also changed my life. But the book Choosing Clarity, it's all about a new mindset of looking at the world. So fear is really our biggest enemy. And then belief, or some call it faith, or some call it optimism, that is actually our greatest strength. Love, that's what she calls it. She calls it trust and love. So the book actually trains you actually write a life policy where you go through all these situations where you possibly experience fear, and you write a life policy about how you want to think about those situations. And then you review that life policy frequently. And so whenever something comes along, you identify, okay, I'm feeling afraid of this, then you go through your life policy, and it helps you actually move past that. And it helps you realize that you're actually safe, that there's a safety net to catch you, that, even if you fail, that's an opportunity to learn. Even if you have some pain along the way, that's an opportunity to learn. And that book has been very, very helpful. me. I actually listened to a podcast the other day. It was Chris Oatley's Artcast, I think, and he was interviewing some really successful artists who recommended having a therapist. And I have gone to a therapist maybe twice for 3 months each time. And this book actually helped just as much as that, as the therapy process. So, yeah, but some people actually, that's what I would recommend is going to a therapist to help you kind of sort through your thoughts and help you identify what thoughts are legitimate and which ones are maybe exaggerated by your fear or by negative thoughts.
Yeah, definitely I will check out that book.
Yeah. Kimberly Giles is the one who wrote it. I can only find it on Amazon. I can't find it in the library because I recommended it to several people, and people often report back that it really helped. So
awesome. Also, I wanted to ask you about this. What is something that you think that you always suspected to be like really important, that once you started in your career became really important? And that was like,
well, for me, I wanted to work at Pixar, and I thought that would be the ultimate goal for me. And it's still in the back of my mind. Sometimes it is, but I've committed now to, like, my wife supported me as we moved around the country and out of the country, and I want her to be able to have her life here with a house near family. And so I have kind of said that, okay, unless someday I could work remotely or anything like that, those big studios are off the table. So that's been the biggest shift for me. Is I thought, and this was my path. I was going to work at Pixar, and 10 years after working at Pixar, I was going to pitch a feature film, and we were going to take it, and we were going to direct a feature film. And I'm 10 years in. I'm not at Pixar, and I directed a short film. And I've actually been pitching a feature film to investors. And so that's kind of on the table, but it's not at that studio. And so I won't have the same kind of resources that in my dreamland I expected. And it's okay. It's okay to have those dreams and to not be embarrassed by them, Like if you don't, sometimes your dream will change. And I think that's really great. So I keep seeing it with several people I talk to. And I applaud people for continuing, down the path, even though the path shifts and changes.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of my mentors called it SMART goals, and pretty much the first thing for the SMART goal was the S, to be specific, but the A was for adaptable as well. So pretty much he told me, like, look, you set up this goal and just get going, and don't get too fixated on this goal, because probably in the middle of the way you're going to find something that will tell you that maybe this goal is not for you in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or maybe you will find something better, but you won't find that until you are in the middle of the path. So just keep going, and pretty much he made like this line, like going to this goal and then diverge into another place, and then diverge into another place. And that's how it felt like when I started entrepreneurship. I started like website design and app development, things like that. And in the end, I ended up closing it, but all the lessons from that helped me out to create this animation studio. And we joined up forces with other friends who were artists, who were lacking the business skills. And that's where we got complementary, and things work out so much better. And now doing the podcast.
Well, I've been very impressed with a lot of the stuff you've been creating.
Thanks a lot.
The online conference, that's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
That looks really awesome. And I've looked at your demo reel, and you've done some good work. And, it looks like, and I admire those business skills. Those business skills are hard to acquire. And I acquired them through a lot of pain through that last business, which is a very fast-paced, very business-oriented business. And I'm like, I'm an artist. What's going on? But now that I have my own business, I'm happy to be doing those tasks that at that company I was kind of like, I would dread doing those tasks. But now that it's for my thing, I'm like, oh, I can do that. It is worth doing that. having those business skills now.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
something else that I wanted to touch on too that I can't remember what it was. Oh, I have a friend who he went to Animation Mentor with me. We had a thing called peer buddies, so they assign you to different studios when you're a peer buddy and you help them out. So I was his peer buddy, and I could see that he was really struggling with animation. And I don't know where the switch happened, but he decided he would do modeling and maquettes, and his work is really, really stellar in that area. He's not doing animation at all anymore, but he's still in the industry because he's doing modeling and making maquettes digitally inside the computer. And I could see that several studios were interviewing him at CT Next. And it's nice to see him succeed. Like he knew kind of a direction that he wanted to go in, but then he shifted. And he shifted a lot faster than I would have. I probably would have stuck with it a little longer. But yeah.
Yeah, funny that you mentioned that. I used to study graphic design.
Me too. I worked as a graphic designer.
Nice. So
Yeah.
the first thing, I was like in the basic area, they were teaching us like architectural drawing, and I was really, really, really good at that. But I was really good set up into illustration and pretty much becoming an illustration, even though I had like these damn good skills. And the thing that I failed to see at that time was that illustration for me should not have been something that I work on. It was something that allowed me to get off stress, and
Yeah.
something that allowed me to get calm and all that. And once I tried to make that into a job, that became my source of stress. So I ended up destroying my passion for drawing. But I remember that I was really good at this thing in architecture, but not liking to try to. I didn't like the idea of seeing the same kind of drawings over and over and over again. And then I moved to system engineering, and something similar happened. I was like really, really good at developing, but I didn't saw myself 8 hours sitting watching code all day. So I wanted to go move into networking and things like that. At the end, it didn't pan out. And it was only until I got into business that I realized that that I had a similar feeling, and that the reason that I was good at architecture was because my logic, the logical part of my brain is like really, really good, really, really sharp. Like even in really emotional moments, or there was a moment where we almost drowned years ago into the sea, and I was like panicking, and that logical voice was like, calm down, like really, really strong, really, really solid.
Oh, wow.
And that logical part of me was the one that allowed me to do really good architectural drawing, and that was the part that allowed me to do really good code at developing.
Yeah.
But once I got into business and creating strategies and all that, that's where the logical part came in, and it's like, oh, I see.
This
like,
is more what I've been meant to do.
yeah, like I had this thing in front of me all these years, and I couldn't see how to turn it into something useful that I wanted to do, but at the same time, like every time that I had to do something that had to do with logic, I was like really good at it, like from the get-go. And this side of the business, like the business skills and all that, that is where this thing like really comes through. But at the same time, I see other people who maybe are a little bit more emotional, and the business kind of situations to stress them out. And it's like, oh, I enjoy it, I revel in it. So,
Yeah, and that's a great thing to have. For me,
but I never thought it was going to be this way. So I think that is a really important point that you touched. That like it is really important to just keep going and see what happens, because that's the way you discover what you're truly good about.
well, something I've discovered is that the logical part of my brain is my wife. It's her brain. So a lot of times, if I'm having a hard time sorting through the business stuff, I just go and run it by her, and it's amazing. She pulls out a sheet of paper and she's like, here's how we do it. And I'm like, wow, that's so simple. In my brain, it seems so difficult. And yeah, so it's very important to also have collaborators. It's important to have people around you who balance you out, who can help you in the places that you're unable to excel at. You might even be okay at them. I'm okay at business, but I wouldn't succeed at it if I didn't have someone like my wife. And I sit next to actually a hedge fund manager, and you know, he's a very different animal than I am, and yet we've become really, really good friends. And he's one of those people I can have any conversation with. It's an invigorating, interesting conversation. We listen to each other's viewpoints. We don't always agree, and that's actually the best conversations, is when we don't agree. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that is something important as well, to have like people who this is something that we discovered by building our business as well. Like having people who complement your skills is really good as well, because, for example, when I joined with a partner in the business, he's the animator. So when we joined forces, like he was focused completely on the creative process and yeah, pretty much the production and all that. And I was able to focus completely on business and forget about the production. And once that happened, like the two of us were able to do a lot of things really fast. And he was able to also polish his skills, because before we joined up, he was trying to be like businessman at the same time animator. And once he was able to focus on that, like 1 year that where we worked really hard together, at the end of that year, he found out that there were animations that he did in the past that would take them a month. Now he was able to do it in 1 week.
Oh, wow.
Now,
Yeah.
and at the same time, my skills in business, in being able to test ideas and all that, became much better. And it came just from the ability to focus on what we were best on. And pretty much it's like, okay, I suck at this. Let's put somebody who is really good at this to deal with that, and
Yeah.
like forget about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the day where I have somebody to do all the business. And someday I'll have that. I know
Yeah.
it'll happen gradually. So
Definitely. So what are your plans for Layers? Pretty much, where is it going to be released, and what do you plan to do with it?
Layers will be released on Vimeo, on my own YouTube channel, and it will likely be released on CG Bros. I still haven't heard back from him because I just emailed him today. But they released my Kickstarter trailer on there, so it'll probably be released on there. On Facebook, I'm just going to splatter it everywhere and hope that something comes back to me. And it's also, I'm hoping that people get excited about that, and that I can recommend that they look at my Kickstarter, which will come up February 4th, 2 weeks after the release of Layers. And it'll also be on the Kickstarter page. And the Kickstarter is for a book called Cirque de Solitude. It's about this woman who is, she's so timid that she buys her own private island to be alone. And when she gets there, it's inhabited by circus people. And so it's a really, really fun idea. I usually get a giggle or a laugh from people when I tell them about the story. So, and it's full of illustrations, and it's just like, so the first book I did, Vanishing Ink, I got to pitch that at 5 different studios as a feature film. And this is what I'm hoping to do with that property as well. So between Vanishing Ink, Layers, and Cirque du Solitude, I will have 3 established feature film pitches, along with the many, 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 many others that I have in my back pocket. So, yeah.
Nice. It's good to see that you have a lot of ideas more that.
Oh, yeah. Well, ever since I was a little kid, I would actually, I don't talk about this in a lot of podcasts, but it's a fun story. So I would run around in circles as a little kid, and I would hop along the furniture and I'd be making sound effects. And my mom thought that I must have like a mental problem. She's like, this kid has, I don't know, some kind of mental problem, maybe autism, or I don't know. But, and maybe I do have a little bit of that, I don't know. But which would be just fine. I know some brilliant people with autism and various other disabilities. So but it was because I had these little cartoon series in my head, and there were two of them, and like I would go through the series, and each story would continue to kind of evolve side by side, but sometimes they met. So the main character from this series would like collaborate with the main character from that series, and then they go back on their own paths and continue having their own adventures. And yeah, it was a fun thing. And then when the reason I did musical theater is because I wanted to write musicals. So I would actually write these plays and have my neighborhood kids do them. And so it's kind of really been in my blood all my life, this idea of creating a story and then getting a team together to make that story some kind of a performance.
Nice. And do you think you are like a visual creator in the way you gesticulate the idea of the stories that you had in your head? Uh, it seems to me that you were actually able to see them develop inside your head. Like
Yeah, I'm very, very visual. So, and it's kind of interesting. So even back in my theater days, when I would do choreography, which is you teach people the different dance moves that they're going to do, when I would plan out the choreography, I'd be listening to the music, and I would imagine a camera moving through the stage, and highlighting the different things that I wanted to happen and the different dance moves. It was always visual. And then I would get in my body and I would act it out after that. But I would always envision it first.
Yeah, I think it's important to discover these kind of mental tools, let's call it. I think most people have them, but they haven't discovered yet because maybe they didn't take much action or for whatever reason. But something that I discovered was that many of my friends didn't like to read too much or do too many courses because they will get what they call information overload. That is information paralysis. That is when they have so much information that they do not know what to do. And I discovered that I don't have that. And it's like when I read a business book or something like that, it's like I see a solution. I have a real problem that I have been through or seen some of my friends been through in business. And then I got the solution pretty much attached to this problem. And then it gets saved in the back of my mind. And it can be years. Years can pass by and all that. And I can even forget the book or the course where I learned these skills. But then, let's say this problem comes up through my friend or through me, something like that, and it's like, oh, there is this problem, and then back from the very back of my mind, like I see the problem coming, and then all the solutions that I learned over the years, this problem is like.
That's really great.
The situation is like, okay, this solution can work, and I can even remember the book or the course when I saw it. Like, if it was a video, like what was the episode of the course, or the pages around it, or the phrase, for example. Now that we have digital things, that if I remember some part of the phrase, I can go to a Kindle or something like that and type it in and look for that part and find it, and it's like, okay, here's the solution. And
that's great.
That is something that I didn't knew I had until I started business. So I think that is really important to find out, like these mental tools. I got another mentor who tells us that, and of course this is not something that we can teach, but that when he hears something in business that rings through, like to the very bottom of his heart, like he gets goosebumps, like
wow,
like for example, if somebody pitches him an idea to invest, and even if he doesn't understand that, like if he gets some goosebumps, then it's like, yeah, I'm all in. I think
awesome.
So the Kickstarter is coming on the February 4th, right?
Yes.
And Layers, you are planning on releasing it on the 21st, right?
Of January, yeah. Awesome. Less than a week.
Nice. So if people want to see your animation, where can people find you on the internet?
So my website is scottwiser.com. And WISER is spelled WISER. It's not German, but some people think it is. But my Instagram is Scott K. WISER. And yeah, those are generally the two places that I tell people to find me. And I have Twitter, Scott K. WISER on Twitter, but I'm a lot more active on Instagram and on my website.
Okay. Is there any last advice that you would like to give the people listening here, like people who, maybe young artists who want to create their own projects? What would be your last advice to them?
If they want to create their own projects?
Yes.
That's a good question. My advice would be to figure out what energizes you. And this is actually kind of a summary of what we've been talking about this whole time. Like we talked about how you don't have information overload when it comes to business. I do when it comes to business, but not when it comes to like stories or people, like the way they act or visuals. I can get as many of those as possible into my brain. But when it comes to business, I overload. So there are things that energize you and there are things that sap your energy. And my advice would be to figure out what energizes you and get as much of that into your day as possible, but also structure your day in such a way that the things that take your energy that still have to be done, that they're also in there. So that you have some activities that give you energy and some energies that take your energy away. And just make sure that you maintain that balance between those things. So, and I think that that will also help you discover what you should be doing. Like maybe you really don't want to do a short film. Maybe you want to just make characters, little maquettes. Maybe you don't want to make maquettes. Maybe you want to be a business person, you know. Just that would be my advice, is to pay very close attention to your emotions as you're doing certain activities. And that will help you to know how to not only structure your day, but also how to structure your life.
Nice. Very well. I definitely agree with you. So I would like to ask you if you would like to give a challenge to the people listening here to become a better artist, what would it be?
Oh boy. This is a good question. And I have to think about it. Because I have great advice for myself, but I'm trying to think like your audience in general. So your audience in general, what are they most interested in?
Pretty much, I'm tapping into two groups of people, like very young people who are starting to get into art and want to pursue art as a profession. And the second would be artists who are already good, who need like the professional skills, business skills, all this kind of stuff. So,
okay. So my challenge to your audience would be that I would pick a goal, something you want to reach, and set this goal maybe 6 months to a year from now, and then kind of put that goal aside a little bit and think about a process that you could enjoy doing. So let's say you're going to wake up every morning at 5 o'clock and you're going to sketch faces because you want to become really good at facial anatomy. So your goal is to, by the end of the year, be able to draw a really great portrait. So what I would do is I would get a book. There's some facial expression books on Amazon, or if that's your goal. And I would just break it down into a process. So say every day at 5 o'clock, I'm going to sketch faces from 5 to 6, and then from 6 to 7, I'm going to spend longer on one of the faces and really work on pushing that to a high level. And that would be my challenge. So it would be to create a goal of something you want to reach in 6 months to a year from now, but also create a process that you enjoy doing, that you know you can stick to for a certain amount of time every day. It doesn't have to be 2 hours. It could be 15 minutes. It could be 30 minutes. But that would be my challenge to you to improve as an artist, is pick the goal, figure out a little process, run it by people, maybe let people give you ideas of what you can do. Maybe the best thing isn't to sketch from that book of faces, but maybe to go and sketch people out in the wild at the ball or something. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for taking time into giving us a little bit about your knowledge and your advice. It is really appreciated that you are helping us here to create this, to make this podcast bigger. So thanks a lot. It's good.
Yeah, thank you for interviewing me. It's been a great pleasure. It's been great talking to you.
So if you want to find more about layers, go to scottwiser.com. You will be able to find all the information below here this video, and also if you're seeing it from our website, you will be able to see the links to all the social media where you will be able to find the film. So, and also, well, at this moment of this post, probably the film will be already public, so I will try to embed it into the post below. So this has been the last episode of the Creative Hustle Show. See you next time.